human ship moved slowly through the silent edge of space. It was small, old, and never meant to travel this far. Its metal body carried scars from many repairs. Inside the ship, one human sat alone, watching stars drift past like cold lights. In the dark, he was not a hero. He was not a soldier. He was only a human chosen because no one else could go. His mission was simple in words, but heavy in meaning. Make contact, listen, and if possible, survive. Humans had discovered the alien empire only 3 years ago. The empire was vast, ancient, and powerful beyond measure. Entire star systems moved. Under its rule, worlds lived or vanished, based on its will. At the center of this empire ruled the alien queen. No one knew her real age. No one knew her true form. Stories said she was born before human history even began. To humans, she was more myth than being the human ship, reached a boundary no human vessel had crossed before. Space here felt different. The stars seemed dimmer, as if even light feared to shine too bright. A massive structure appeared ahead, not built like human stations. No sharp angles, no straight lines. It looked alive, like a giant sleeping creature wrapped around a star. The human swallowed and steadied his breath. Fear pressed against his chest, but turning back was not an option. Earth had sent him because the queen had asked for a human, only one, and she had promised nothing in return. The ship was pulled in without resistance, no alarms, no weapons. Just silent control taken by something far greater. When the ship stopped, the human was guided through a long chamber. The walls glowed softly, shifting colors like slow-moving water. The air felt warm and heavy, but safe. He noticed he could breathe without effort. Even here, the empire had prepared for him. At the end of the chamber, the queen waited. She sat upon a raised platform that seemed grown, not built. Her form was tall and graceful. Not human, but not monstrous either. Her eyes were deep and calm, holding the weight of countless centuries. Power surrounded her, but she did not need to show it. The human stopped several steps away. His heart raced. Every instinct told him to kneel, but he stood, because that was what humans did. The queen studied him in silence. Long enough for the quiet to become painful. She was not judging his strength. She was measuring something deeper. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was smooth, clear, and carried directly into his mind. "You are small," she said. "Fragile, short-lived." The human expected more. An insult, a threat, or perhaps dismissal. Instead, the queen tilted her head slightly. "Yet your kind endures," she continued. "You lose worlds and still rebuild. You lose hope and still dream. You are weak, but you do not surrender." The human did not answer. He did not know how. The queen rose from her platform. Each step she took made the chamber feel smaller, not because she was large, but because her presence filled everything. Then she stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see fine patterns across her skin, marks of age and authority. Her next words changed everything. "I can give you a child, human," she said. "A child born of my empire's science. A being who will carry your kind forward when your stars grow cold." The human's breath caught. Confusion struck harder than fear. This was not what he expected. This was not what Earth had prepared him for. "A child," the queen continued calmly. "Not of flesh alone, but of legacy, of survival." The chamber felt suddenly heavy. The human realized this meeting was not about peace, not about war. It was about the future of humanity itself. The queen turned away, giving him time to think. "Listen carefully," she said. "My offer is not kindness, it is necessity." The human understood then. Whatever she wanted, it would cost more than a single life. It would cost belief, trust, and choice. As the queen's words echoed in the chamber, the human knew this was only the beginning, and whatever answer he gave would change his species forever. Before we continue this journey, if you enjoy deep sci-fi stories where humanity faces impossible choices, please consider subscribing to this channel and staying with us till the end. The queen turned back, her eyes locking onto the human once more. "Decide wisely," she said, "because once humanity steps onto this path, there will be no return." And in that moment, the smallest species in the galaxy stood before the greatest power ever known, unaware that its greatest strength had yet to be revealed. The chamber stayed quiet after the queen spoke. The human stood alone, his thoughts racing faster than any ship he had ever flown. He had been trained for threats, for lies, for power games, but not for this. A child, a future shaped by alien hands, a promise that sounded like salvation and danger at the same time. The human was escorted away from the throne chamber without another word. The walls shifted as he walked, closing paths behind him, opening new ones ahead. Like the structure itself was thinking, watching. He was led into a private chamber made for rest. The soft light filled the room. No guards stood nearby, no visible weapons watched him, and somehow, that made everything worse. Humans feared cages. But they feared open doors even more. The human sat on the edge of a smooth platform that served as a bed. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear of death, but from fear of responsibility. Back on Earth, people believed humans were brave, that they faced the unknown with courage. But the truth was quieter. Humans were afraid all the time. They just kept moving anyway. That was the weakness the Queen had seen. Fear, doubt, short lives, filled with mistakes. The human remembered training simulations. Most ended in failure. Human ships destroyed. Human colonies erased. The lesson was always the same. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest species in the galaxy. And yet, they survived. The human leaned forward, pressing his hands together. His breath slowed. He began to think clearly. Not like a diplomat, not like a soldier, but like a human. Humans adapted. When resources were low, they learned to reuse. When planets were harsh, they learned to endure. When enemies were stronger, they learned patience. The Queen's offer was terrifying, but it was also revealing. If the alien empire truly needed humans, then humans had something the empire lacked. The thought settled slowly, like a spark refusing to go out. The empire was ancient, stable, powerful, but it was also rigid, locked into systems that had not changed for ages. Humans changed every generation. Every crisis reshaped them. Every failure taught them something new. The human realized the Queen did not choose humanity for strength. She chose them for uncertainty. A soft sound filled the chamber. The Queen's voice returned, calm and distant. "You are afraid," she said. "Your heart races. Your thoughts scatter." The human did not deny it. "Yes," he answered. "I am." There was a pause. Then the Queen spoke again. "You believe? Fear makes you weak." The human looked up at the glowing ceiling. "Sometimes," he said, "but fear also tells us what matters." Silence followed, heavier than before. The Queen appeared once more, her form materializing near the chamber's edge. She did not sit, she stood, observing. "Explain," she said. The human rose slowly. He did not stand tall. He did not pretend confidence. He stood as he was, small and honest. "Humans fear loss," he said, "so we protect. Humans fear failure, so we try again. Humans fear the end, so we plan for futures we may never see." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in interest. "You die quickly," she said. "Your lives are brief." "Yes," the human replied. "That is why every choice matters." The room felt different then, not warmer, not brighter, but charged. The Queen circled him slowly. "You break easily," she said. "Your bodies fail." The human nodded. "And when they do," he said, "others take our place. We are not built to last. We are built to continue." The Queen stopped. For the first time, her perfect calm shifted, just slightly. The human realized something important. The empire feared stagnation, feared an unchanging future, feared a time when power alone would no longer be enough. That was why she spoke of children, of legacy, of survival beyond cold stars. "You see yourselves as tools," the Queen said, "adaptable, replaceable." The human met her gaze. "We see ourselves as stories," he said, "each one short. But together, they never end." Another silence followed, longer than the first. Outside the chamber, unseen forces shifted. Decisions formed far beyond human reach. The Queen turned away slowly. "You misunderstand the cost," she said. "My offer will divide your kind. Some will call you savior, others will call you traitor." The human felt the weight of that truth settle in his chest. He was weak, he could fail, he could be blamed forever. But humans had always carried that burden. He spoke quietly. "Humanity has survived. Worse than judgment," he said. "We survive ourselves." The Queen did not answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice carried something new. Not warmth, not kindness, but respect. "Your weakness," she said, "may yet become your greatest weapon." And far beyond the chamber walls, in the dark between stars, the future of two civilizations began to bend. Slowly, irreversibly. The pressure did not come all at once. It arrived quietly, like a shadow that grows longer without anyone noticing. The human remained in the chamber, but the chamber itself began to change. The soft light dimmed slightly. The walls pulsed slower, heavier, as if the empire was drawing a breath. The Queen did not return immediately. That absence was deliberate. Silence was her first demand. Humans were not good with silence. They filled it with thoughts. With fear, with doubt, the human walked slowly across the room. Every step echoed faintly. He felt watched, not by guards or weapons, but by systems older than Earth's first cities. Time passed differently here. Minutes felt like hours. Or maybe hours felt like seconds. The uncertainty gnawed at him. Then the air shifted. The queen appeared again. This time the chamber expanded around them, the walls pulling back to reveal a vast hollow space beyond. Stars were visible, not distant points of light, but close, enormous, burning quietly. "This is my empire," the queen said, her voice steady, unyielding. The human felt small again, not because he was weak, but because the scale was overwhelming. "Your people believe power is loud," she continued. "They build weapons, they show force, they threaten." She gestured toward the stars. "I do not need to." The human understood the message. Resistance was meaningless here. "You spoke of stories," the queen said, "of continuation. Then listen to mine." The stars shifted. Images formed in the space before them. Worlds rose and fell. Civilizations bloomed and vanished, all under the same unchanging rule. "My empire does not collapse," the queen said. "It endures, but endurance has a cost." The images slowed. Repetitions appeared. The same structures, the same paths, again and again. "We have mastered survival," she said, "but not renewal." The human's chest tightened. This was not a confession. It was a warning. "You will accept my proposal," the queen said calmly, not as a question, but as a statement. The pressure hit then, invisible, heavy. "Like gravity increasing without mercy, humanity will provide genetic contribution," she continued. "Culture, adaptation patterns, emotional variance." The human's hands clenched. "You are asking us to give up control," he said. "Yes," the queen replied, "and you will receive survival." The stars behind her dimmed. Some faded completely. Dead systems, forgotten species. "This is the alternative," she said. "No alliance, no protection, no interference." The human realized the truth. Then this was not an offer. It was leverage wrapped in polite words. "If we refuse," he said slowly, "you let us fail." The queen turned her gaze fully upon him. "I do not cause endings," she said. "I allow them." The room felt colder, not in temperature, but in meaning. The human thought of Earth, of fragile cities, of people arguing about small things, under a vast sky, unaware how close extinction truly stood. "You would reshape us," he said, "change what it means to be human." "Yes," the queen said, "and you have done this to yourselves many times already." The word struck deeper than any threat. Humans had changed themselves through war, through technology, through fear, through hope. The queen stepped closer. "Your weakness is choice," she said. "You argue, you divide, you hesitate." She paused. "And yet, you choose anyway." The pressure intensified, not physical, but moral. "Every future splitting into countless paths, you will return to your people," the queen said. "You will bring my demand, you will carry the weight, and if they say no," the human asked, his voice steady despite the storm inside him, "then humanity will face the universe alone." She replied, as it always feared. The stars vanished. The chamber closed in again, smaller, tighter. The queen turned away. "This is not cruelty," she said. "It is efficiency." The human stood frozen, realizing the true cost was not the child, not the science, not the future. It was the choice itself. As the queen disappeared once more, the pressure did not lift. It settled, waiting, and in that quiet moment, the human understood. The alien queen did not need to threaten humanity. She only needed to ask. The human was not returned to his ship. Instead, the empire led him deeper. Past halls never meant for visitors. Past systems that hummed with quiet intelligence. This was not punishment. This was preparation. The queen waited again, but this time she did not stand alone. The chamber was larger, darker, its ceiling opened into a living sky of moving light. "You believe you have heard the full truth," the queen said, "but you have not." The human felt the weight of those words settle. Every instinct told him this moment mattered more than the offer, more than the threat. She raised one hand. The space before them shifted, not into stars, but into memories. Not human memories, alien ones. He saw ancient beings rise from primal worlds, civilizations growing tall and proud, each believing they had reached perfection, each believing they had nothing left to learn. Then time passed, slowly at first, then faster. Progress stopped, creativity faded. Change became fear. One by one, those civilizations weakened. Not from war, not from disaster, but from stillness. "They were strong," the queen said. "Stronger than you, smarter than you, longer lived than you." The images showed those species fading, becoming shadows of themselves, until nothing remained. "They all failed," she said, "not because they were weak, but because they believed strength was enough." The human's breath slowed, a realization forming, slow and sharp. "You were saying," he began, "they lost the ability to change." "Yes," the queen replied, "they lost the ability to risk." The images shifted again. This time to humanity. Early humans struggling on a harsh planet, hunting, building, failing, standing up again. Wars followed, mistakes followed, near extinction events, self-inflicted disasters, and yet, humans survived. You should not exist. The Queen said, by every logical measure, the human felt something rise in his chest. Not pride, not anger, but recognition. You are chaotic, she continued, inconsistent, emotion-driven. The Queen turned to face him fully, and that is why you are dangerous. The words struck like lightning. Dangerous. The human repeated softly. Yes, the Queen said, to stagnation, to certainty, two endings that pretend to be eternal. The revelation hit fully then. The child was not the core of the proposal, it was a symbol. You do not want our survival, the human said, you want our instability. The Queen did not deny it. I want your fire, she said. Your doubt, your refusal to accept the final answer. The chamber darkened, the systems around them responding to something unseen. My empire has power, the Queen said, but power alone leads to decay. She stepped closer. For the first time, she said, I fear the future. That was the shock, not the threat. Not the demand, but the fear. The alien queen feared what came next. You think humans are weak? She said. But weakness that adapts becomes unstoppable. The human finally understood the HFY truth. Humans were not chosen because they were small. They were chosen because they never stayed the same. You do not want to rule us, he said. You want us inside your future? Yes, the Queen replied. Before my empire becomes another memory, the child, the proposal, the pressure, all of it was a test, to see if humanity would bend or burn bright enough to reshape destiny. The human straightened, fear still present, but no longer controlling him. Then you should know something, he said. Humans do not adapt quietly. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Explain. When we change, he continued, we change everything around us. Silence fell, not tense, but electric. The Queen studied him again, this time not as a subject, but as a force. Now you understand, she said. And now, the real choice begins. Beyond the chamber, across countless stars, the universe waited, because humanity's greatest weakness had finally been seen, and it was no longer weakness at all. The human was given time, not comfort, not freedom, just time. Time was the cruelest gift the Queen could offer. He was returned to the quiet chamber, the same soft light, the same calm walls. But now everything felt heavier, because he understood, the offer was not about saving humanity alone. It was about changing it. The human sat, his back against the curved wall. He closed his eyes, and earth came to him. He saw crowded cities, children laughing, in streets built over old mistakes, old people telling stories that were half true and half hope. Humans argued, they fought, they failed each other often, but they also forgave, rebuilt, and tried again. That was the conflict tearing through him now. If he accepted the Queen's demand, humanity might survive longer than it ever dreamed, spread further than it ever could alone. But would they still be human, or would they become a piece of someone else's design? He imagined future generations, learning their history, learning that survival came with a signature written under pressure, learning that choice was traded for safety. The thought made his chest tighten. Humans had always feared extinction, but they feared losing themselves even more. A soft presence entered the chamber. The Queen did not fully appear. Her voice came gently, almost patient. You struggle, she said. Yes, the human answered. I do. You believe survival must be earned, she said, even if the cost is suffering. The human opened his eyes. No, he said. I believe survival without meaning is just delay. The Queen was silent, allowing the words to exist. You see our future as decay, he continued, and maybe you are right, but humans are not a cure you can control. The Queen's presence grew clearer. You believe this makes you strong? She said. No, the human replied. It makes us responsible. That was the heart of it, responsibility. Humans did not last because they were powerful. They lasted because they carried guilt, because they remembered failure, because they tried to do better next time. If we agree, the human said, we must choose how. The Queen's voice sharpened slightly. You misunderstand, she said. My demand is precise, and humanity is not. The human answered. That answer hung in the air, dangerous, defiant. The Queen manifested. Fully now, her eyes locked onto him. You push against inevitability, she said. Yes, the human replied calmly. That is what we do. He stood, not tall, not proud, but steady. You see our weakness as fuel, he said. Our fear, our doubt, our short lives. He took a slow breath. But those things also mean we do not give one person the right to decide for everyone. The Queen's expression changed. Not anger, not shock, but calculation. You were chosen to speak, she said, not to decide. The human nodded. I know, he said, but even speaking. As way, he turned slightly, as if earth were behind him. Asking humanity to survive by becoming part of your system, he said, means asking them to trust you, and you do not, the Queen said. I trust outcomes, the human replied, and humans do not grow when outcomes are guaranteed. That was the resolve forming now, clear and frightening. Humanity would not refuse out of pride, they would refuse out of responsibility, unless the choice remained human. If we accept, he said, it must be with limits, with shared control. With the freedom to fail again, the Queen stared at him for a long moment. You would risk extinction, she said. Yes? The human answered. Because extinction chosen is still choice. The chamber seemed to pulse. Systems reacting, possibilities shifting. For the first time since humanity entered the Empire, the Queen hesitated. You are prepared to lose everything, she said. The human's voice was quiet. We always have been, he said. Outside the chamber, across the Empire, something ancient adjusted its calculations. The moral conflict had not broken the human, it had clarified him. And the Queen realized this was the danger she feared most, a species willing to risk the end, rather than live without meaning. The chamber changed again, but this time it was not subtle. The walls pulled farther apart, the lights sharpened, the air felt charged. Like a storm gathering without sound, the Queen stood very still. Her hesitation was brief, but for a being who ruled for ages, even a moment of pause meant everything. You mistake risk for strength, she said at last, her voice calm, but no longer distant. The human did not step back. He did not argue. He waited. That alone shifted the balance. For the first time, the Queen was responding, not commanding. You believe choice gives you power, she continued. But choice without leverage is illusion. The human nodded slowly. Then let us speak of leverage, he said. The chamber reacted instantly. Light patterns froze. Invisible systems focused. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You have none? She said. Not weapons? The human replied. Not fleets, not territory. He paused. But you have already shown yours. Silence struck. Sharp and absolute, the Queen did not deny. You fear stagnation, the human said. You fear becoming one more empire that lasts too long and means nothing. The Queen's voice dropped slightly. Careful, she warned. Fear makes us honest. The human said. You taught me that? That was the turning point. The moment the Queen realized, the human was no longer reacting. He was negotiating. You need humanity. He continued, not as subjects, not as tools, but as disruption. The word echoed, disruption. Across the empire, systems calculated outcomes. None had been designed for this variable. You want our fire? The human said, but fire cannot be owned. The Queen stepped forward. Her presence intensified. You risked everything with your defiance, she said. Yes, the human replied. But so do you. The chamber darkened. Stars flickered beyond the walls. The empire itself, listening. The Queen lifted her hand. A display formed between them. Timelines branching. Future paths collapsing and reforming. In most outcomes, she said, humanity accepts. And in most, the human replied, you lose what you want from us? The Queen's gaze sharpened. You assume much? No, the human said calmly. I observe. He stepped closer, each step small, but deliberate. When humans are forced, he said, they resist. When they are cornered, they break things. Sometimes the wrong things. The Queen studied the projections again, this time more carefully. In the futures, where humanity chooses freely, the human said, you do not control. The result? Yes, the Queen replied. But in those futures, he continued, you do not decay. That was the shift. Not power taken, but power revealed. The Queen lowered her hand. The projections faded. You offer uncertainty, she said. We offer growth, the human answered. For the first time since the meeting began, the Queen smiled. Not warmly, but truthfully, you have changed the equation, she said. The chamber responded. Systems recalibrating, restrictions loosening. You will return to Earth, the Queen said. Not as a messenger, but as proof. The human felt the weight of it settle. What proof? He asked. That humanity does not beg, she replied, and does not submit. The Queen turned away. The proposal remains, she said, but the terms evolved. That was the power shift. Quiet, irreversible. Humanity had not gained control of the empire, but it had gained something more dangerous. Influence. As the chamber opened and paths realigned, the human understood. The universe no longer saw humanity as small, it saw them as unpredictable, and for ancient powers, that was the greatest threat of all. The human ship left the empire without ceremony. No escort, no warning, just open space and a silent path home. The Queen watched from her chamber as the small vessel vanished into the dark. For the first time in her long existence, she did not know the outcome, and she accepted that. The journey back felt longer than the journey in, not because of distance, but because of weight. The human carried more than a message. He carried uncertainty and hope. When the ship finally reached human space, alarms did not sound. Weapons did not rise. Instead, people waited. Leaders, scientists, voices that argued even in moments of fear. The human stood before them, not as a hero, not as a savior, but as a witness. He spoke slowly, simply. He told them everything. The queen, the offer, the pressure, the fear of stagnation, the demand hidden inside a promise. The room reacted as humans always did. Some shouted, some denied. Some saw salvation, some saw betrayal. The human did not stop them. He waited. When the noise faded, he spoke one final time. She offered us survival, he said, but not certainty. She offered power, but not control. He looked around the room. At the end, he said, she feared what we might become. That was the moment everything changed. Humans understood fear. They lived with it, worked with it, built futures despite it. The decision did not come quickly. It took days, then weeks. Arguments spread across Earth and its colonies. Families talked, strangers debated. No single voice ruled, and far away. The queen waited. At last, humanity answered. Not with fleets, not with threats, but with a message. They accepted the future. But on their terms, shared choice, shared risk, no guarantees. The queen read the response in silence. Her empire processed it with endless calculations. Most outcomes were uncertain. Many were dangerous, and yet, one path shone brighter than the rest. Growth. The queen stood alone once more, looking out at the stars. Unpredictable, she said softly, and alive. The agreement that followed was unlike any before it. No conquest, no submission, only cooperation built on discomfort. Humanity did not become servants, they became partners. They brought failure, emotion, argument, change, and the empire felt something new. Movement, years passed, then decades. Human influence spread not through control, but through example. They questioned systems, improved them, broke some, rebuilt better ones. The queen watched as her empire evolved, not smoothly, not perfectly, but honestly, and humanity grew too. Still fragile, still arguing, still afraid, but never still. One day, long after the first meeting, the queen stood before a chamber filled with voices. Human and alien, together. She remembered the small human who stood alone before her. Afraid, but unbroken, she understood now. Humanity's greatest strength was never power, never intelligence, never survival. It was their refusal to stop becoming something new. And as the stars shifted and the future unfolded, the universe learned a quiet truth. The smallest species did not conquer the galaxy. They changed it, not by force, but by daring to choose meaning over safety, again and again.